Any discussion on this item?
I'm sorry, which one are we on?
We're on item 3, which is resolution concerning change of regular board meeting times and locations.
But not as consent.
Not as consent. We've pulled it out and we're
Okay,
just
now we're on it.
talking about
Got
this
it.
particular.
Okay, yeah, I have some comments.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan.
I'm concerned about the meeting time moving to 6 p.m. It's very hard for me to get to a meeting at 6 o'clock. I've also been hearing from the public that 6 p.m. is challenging for people to get here and have dinner before the meeting. So I just wanted to voice that concern.
Thank you. Any other comments? And I have one, commissioners. Any other comments on item 3 regarding meeting time start?
I would only have one comment. We've already voted on this at the last meeting and approved it. Now we're simply putting it in an appropriate resolution form.
And I'm being consistent with my vote.
Okay. Do I hear, okay, there was a motion and a second, and actually I will withdraw my, my comments. So let's do a roll call vote on this, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
No.
Commissioner Holsinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Parabon?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye. Okay, so item 3 passes, so now we are back to the minutes of meeting August 7th. The meeting approval of the minutes for August 7th. Is that right? Or is it September 18th?
August 7th.
I've switched them in my mind too.
It's August 7th.
Okay.
Do you want a motion first before you have discussion?
I move to amend the minutes.
Second. May I ask this of my fellow commissioner? I was going to make a motion to put it on the floor so you can discuss your concerns as we have done in the past. But a motion to amend, I don't know that that would necessarily pass at this point.
So I'd like to amend the minutes. What are you asking me to do?
Nothing. Let us get a motion on the floor and then go through your procedure that you want, what minutes you want changed, which we've done in the past.
Okay.
Then I would move to approve the minutes of August 7th.
Okay. So
Is
I
there a
hear a
second?
motion. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Okay, so I hear a motion and a second.
Now my colleague has some changes, I think.
Right, Commissioner Brennan, and then I have a comment.
Thank you. Not too many comments tonight about the minutes, but a couple. On page 13 of 24, I don't want to keep us here all night, so I'm not going to go into all the details. I can do this offline, but there are just problems throughout page 13. You would like me to, I can get into some detail. Otherwise, I'm happy to do it later. But I have noticed that when I brought up concerns about the minutes in the past, I have not received corrected versions of the minutes, and there hasn't been any communication from staff about the corrections. So I don't know what's really happening with that. It doesn't feel like it's, I don't know if it's being followed up on. So I'm a little confused about how that's being handled by staff. And then I just wanted to also mention that on page 13, there was a comment made by council during this meeting that should have fit into page 13, where council said that, and this was Jean Savory in this case, that she had billable hours in a meeting, I believe it was a phone meeting with Commissioner Paravano regarding his recusal, or his need to recuse regarding fishing-related agenda items. And that was omitted from this record of the minutes, and I think that should be included. And then I have some other changes as well. So I need, I need from staff some clarification on the process here, because it's not seeming like I'm getting any communication back.
I believe that the last time what the deputy secretary and the temporary deputy secretary did was listen to the tape regarding all of the information that you said needed to be changed, and listen to the tape, and the places where their information was incorrect, they did change it, and then they submitted the minutes because they weren't already approved.
So and that's great, I think that's great, but if that's what's happening, I would like to have those minutes emailed to me when they've been changed so that I could see them, and I would imagine the whole board would probably want to take a look, and that's not happening.
Okay,
Thank you.
And those were put forward as addendums, were they not, based on the commissioner's comments?
I believe so, yes.
Sure.
Okay, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Brennan. I do have one comment I'd like to say about minutes. It seems like it's been a huge topic these days. A couple things about minutes. According to Robert's rules, and council can correct me if I'm wrong, but minutes are generally a recording of the actions taken during a meeting and not every specific comment. Those are, of course, those can be taken from tapes, whether it's videotapes, audio tapes, podcasts, that type of thing. But it's my understanding that according to Robert's rules, they are a keeping of the actions, motions, seconds, you know, ayes, nays, that type of thing. So, and not exact words to the sent to the period and question mark. So, I just wanted to bring that up because I felt that I wanted everyone to understand that that was my understanding of meeting minutes. And the other thing is, if we wanted exact word for word meeting minutes, I think it's possible if we had a transcription machine that could, you know, I know I use Dragon software at the office so that it takes everything that I say, and even then it makes mistakes when I talk into it, and it transcribes things. So unless you want it to be perfect, I mean, I don't even know if that's even possible, but I just wanted to say that let's keep that in mind when we're thinking meeting minutes, that they're not going to be exactly word for word verbatim, because I personally don't think that's going to be possible. Unless someone sat there for 8 hours typing every single word out. Yes, Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, if I might make a couple of comments, Mr. President, on this item. First of all, your staff is in a serious quandary about what to do about minutes these days, and we need some direction and guidance from the commission. Indeed, you are correct. We have here Robert's rules talking about minutes, and what is commonly known as action minutes is what we legally need to put now.
Thank you for the point of order. I just got a point of order. This is not on the agenda. We shouldn't be talking about this. I just wanted to finish my comment. So thank you for the point of order. We get back on track.
We all seem to have copies of Robert's Rules of Order now.
Yes, we do. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It's not a bad thing at all.
It's a good thing. So, okay, there was a motion and a second. So any other discussion items? I'm finished with this. We're not having a comment on this. So we are on item 3.
No, it's already.
I'm sorry. It was the item number. No, it was the August 7th one. It was the August 7th one. So I'll have a roll call if there's no other comments.
So can you clarify what we're voting on again? Am I going to be allowed to have the minutes amended?
Yes, you're going to submit them to staff, and staff will make those corrections, and you two will make sure that they're corrected to your liking.
Okay, great.
Okay. And they'll be corrected to your liking, and then they'll be included in the official
got it.
minutes. Okay, so can I have a roll call on this, please?
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Peravano?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye. Okay, now we are finished with the consent calendar, and I've moved item number 11 up to...
Excuse me, Mr. President.
Yes.
I have a point of information relating
Yes.
to minutes, which I started to talk about before. Here's the situation. Number one, we've heard from the public who are quite serious about wanting to be accurately represented in the minutes. I couldn't agree more. On the other hand, we have Robert's Rules, which we indeed are supposed to follow.
Point of order?
I'm sorry, yeah, there's a point of order, yes?
This
Commissioner
is
Brennan?
not on the agenda, and it should be agendized. If we're going to have a discussion about how to do the minutes, it should be on the agenda, and it's not. So this is off topic.
If I may, you had minutes on the agenda and asked for discussion, and I was cut off. And I feel it is very important because your staff will be spending public funds dealing with minutes, and we have to get some guidance from you.
Can we agendize it then? Because this
For
particular
next,
topic is...
2 weeks from now?
Ask counsel.
Okay, sure, fine.
Because
Mr. President, I know you haven't ruled on the commissioner's point of order. Can we ask council for a clarification on whether the manager could be permitted? Could we get some advice from council?
Sure, counsel.
Well, I was going to suggest to Peter that if he believes that staff needs direction from the board, that he bring that up in his general manager's report and ask that the board provide some direction either here tonight or on another agenda.
Thank you. That's a good idea, just to keep us on track and we're not jumping around all over the map. We're back at 11. We moved up item 11. I moved it up. And that's committee reports and commission statements and requests. So why don't we just begin with Commissioner Holsinger. Do you have any reports, statements, or requests?
Yes. Thank you. I've been looking into the weather buoy issue as well, too. I'm concerned about that because it's going to be Harbor District personnel, resources, and funds that are going to be expended for response to any calls for assistance out at sea because the fishermen or other boaters don't know what the weather conditions are out there off Pillar Point. I've learned that the average cost of maintenance of the weather buoys nationwide is about $100,000 for each weather buoy. The weather buoys to the immediate north and south of this particular one seem to be in working condition, which is why it has a low priority for NOAA. And they're not scheduled to inspect this for maintenance until next spring. So I'm concerned about what the effect is going to be perhaps for the lack of weather information for our fishermen out there this coming winter. And what are the resources that are going to be expended by the Harbor District? What are the resources that are going to be expended by the Coast Guard to respond to any emergency calls because of the uncertainty of those weather conditions and the fishermen wanting to go out and earn a living during that time? So far as I've been able to determine, NOAA, facing its budget crisis, including now with no money for federal government, is simply not moving at all, and that Congresswoman Spears' office has limited influence, if any. We're not getting any clear assistance from state elected officials, and it is at the U.S. Senator level for Barbara Boxer or Dianne Feinstein that if anything is going to be done. I think that it's penny wise and pound foolish to save the money on maintenance of the weather buoy there and then spend the money for emergency services to save boats and lives. So I would like to see this commission take up as an agenda item, and I'd request it, now is the time to request it under Commissioner comments, request it be put on the agenda for next time to have authorize a letter by our general manager, our district manager, Peter Grinnell, to both U.S. senators requesting that this be given a high priority and identifying what the true costs really are likely to be if this isn't taken care of.
Is that a motion?
That would be a motion to put that on the agenda to direct our general manager to send a letter to both U.S. senators to encourage inspection and repair of this weather buoy.
Okay, thank you. I hear a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item?
Yes.
Commissioner Brennan.
And I just first want to point out that we've been cautioned by council that we can only have limited discussion on items that are not on the agenda. And since this item is not on the agenda, I just want to acknowledge that. So Kai, if I say something that I shouldn't say, please tell me, because this whole process is a little strange. Sure. I also am very concerned about the situation with the weather buoy. It's been a problem for a while. It's affecting boaters, recreational, commercial fishing. It's affecting even our surfers. They like to check and see what's going on with the weather. So, I think we need to definitely get a letter out from the district. I definitely support that. And I also support the concept of moving up the harbor master's report to earlier in the meeting, because I know that Harbor Master Grindy had planned to bring this item up at our last meeting, and the meeting was cut short, so he was unable to inform the board about these concerns. And I feel strongly that we do need to hear about items like this earlier in the meeting so that we don't risk not finding out about them in time to get letters out that are urgent.
So Commissioner Brennan, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Those are two different items that you're bringing up then, I'm hearing. You're talking about the weather buoys that Commissioner Holsinger talked about, and then in addition, it sounds like you're adding another item that you'll probably be bringing up.
That's right, thank you.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're on topic right now. Right now, weather buoys, but please continue.
So that's it. I support getting a letter out, and I think we should send it to everybody that's relevant, including our state senators, and also we should send it to Dianne Feinstein. I know she's already aware of the issue. Get the word out. I'm sure Scott has a list of people that it would be appropriate to send the letter to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Brennan. I hear a motion and a second. So all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. So I'd like to direct staff to prepare a letter.
No.
I'm sorry.
Agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Agenda item. Sorry. This will be agendized to the next meeting. Sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself.
I have one other issue to address under
Yes,
Commissioner
Commissioner
comments.
Holsinger.
That has to do with the issue of the fees and charges for offloading as it affects the fishermen, and distinguish that from the rent and fees that the lessees on Johnson Pier might be dealing with. We've just renewed the leases for the 3 fish offloaders or buyers on Johnson Pier. I understand there's some discontent with those leases as they're implemented and as they're being paid. I, in commissioner comments last month in written form, indicated my particular belief that if there was going to be any changes, that because all the leases are substantially the same, it has to be at the request and desire of all of the 3 lessees for the district to look at it, that we're not going to negotiate against ourselves or piecemeal with each of the tenants. I see that as very different from the issue of the effect of those fees on the fishermen. And indeed, I see the fishermen and their livelihood as being a priority for me personally in my role as a commissioner with the Harbor District. I have attempted to get information on the fees that are charged by government agencies that have purview and control over different harbors and marinas up and down the Northern California coast, and I've gotten limited information on that. San Francisco doesn't have any. Monterey's to the city is fairly modest, and so forth. What I don't have clear information across the board on are what are the charges by the offloaders to the fishermen when they charge for offloading those fees. I have limited information, and it's sketchy and sporadic, but not across the board to see the effect of that. I will make one final comment in that regard. And indeed, I heard anecdotally from a buyer in San Francisco who's also a commercial fisherman, that when the State Department of Fish and Game increased a particular fee from 2 or 3 cents to 5 cents a pound, that those fees at the higher rate were then passed on penny for penny, dollar for dollar to the fishermen in a way that they hadn't before. And so when I have heard fishermen come here and say that the offloading fees that are charged by the district to the tenants in lieu of rent or in supplement to rent are going to affect them and are going to be charged through to them, I haven't seen it happen yet, but I listen more carefully so that to the extent that we have fees based upon poundage of offloading, while we thought that might have been a good way to join with the fishermen in a good year and give them a break in a bad year, it may not be workable. And so I'll continue to listen to the fishermen and look to gather that information and share it with my colleagues as I get it. But it's something that I am paying attention to. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tucker?
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Carvana?
I have none.
Commissioner Brennan?
Okay. So I've got a few things here. The first one was regarding the weather buoys, so I'm going to scratch that one off the list, which is great. Number 2, I can also scratch off the list. Number 3, I think that we've been waiting a long time to make a decision on Wi-Fi, and I'm hoping that we have that on an agenda soon. I know that staff was going to be gathering a little more information because a couple of the commissioners requested that. I don't remember which ones. I haven't gotten an update on that recently. I'd like to get an update on it. So I'm kind of looking to you, Chair, to see what you suggest. Do you think I need to make a motion to?
You can ask for, how about asking for an informational report on the agenda for the next meeting, so that just.
An update.
Yeah,
Yeah,
informational,
okay.
just to see the status,
Okay.
status report.
So should I do that now and then come back to the other things that I wanted to cover?
Yes, please.
Okay.
We'll just have staff.
So I'd like to ask for an update on the next agenda. That's just a simple update.
Yes, it's just informational, we're not, yeah, we're not gonna take action on it, so, absolutely.
Okay,
I can give it to Peter and won't be here.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Mr. Brennan? Yes.
So, cross that one out. Regarding our minutes, I was noticing when I was reading Robert's Rules of Order, and I certainly have a lot more to learn about Robert's Rules of Order, but I was noticing on the section about minutes that it says that reports can be included in minutes. And that's not something that this board has ever done before, but sometimes there are reports, or like we got a letter tonight, things like that, which would be helpful to have included in the minutes because they didn't make it into the board packet. So I just wanted to point out that that is included in Robert's Rules of Order for something to consider for future minutes. And it also might cut down on the public feeling like they're not being heard, because we would have more information included in the minutes, and it wouldn't create more work for staff because it's already a report that's been produced by someone. So just a thought on that. And then I've got the missing checks. That was something that I definitely wanted to discuss at our last meeting. I was very disappointed that it wasn't on the agenda, and I'm also disappointed that it's not on this agenda. I do think we need to have a public discussion by the board about that at a publicly noticed meeting to clear up what happened with the missing checks. I know I still have a lot of questions about it. There's a lot of confusion. I've read, different figures quoted in the newspaper, and so I think that, given the fact that apparently the checks were discovered in July, I didn't find out about it until September 18th. I'd like to know, when the treasurer knew about it, when the general manager knew about it, why it wasn't brought up to the board's attention sooner. I just like to get the whole thing resolved. So I would like to have that on a future agenda.
Okay, so Commissioner Brennan, would an informational report suffice? Whether it's the finance director or the general manager, someone give an informational report?
That would be fine with me, as long as we could discuss it.
Okay, so that can be
Mr.
created.
President, may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I think I'd like to see my colleague make a motion. I think she raises a good point, and to get an item on the agenda, our procedure calls for a motion. And I think it would be very appropriate if she made a motion, and it would be my pleasure as treasurer. It would be my pleasure as treasurer to second that motion. You'll make a motion to put the item on the agenda.
So I move that we,
Thank you.
thank you. I move that we put the item to have a discussion about the pile of missing checks that were found on the next
And
agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. I hear a motion and a second, unless there's additional discussion on this. And since it's about money, can we do a roll call on this?
Commissioner
Thank you.
Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger,
Aye.
Commissioner Terrabonne.
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker.
Aye.
President Bernard.
Aye, thank you. So it will be on the next agenda. Commissioner Brennan, please continue.
And then, let's see, where am I here? I'm really glad that item 11 was moved to the start of the meeting because we weren't able to put anything on the agenda at the last meeting because commissioner statements and requests was cut off before we could get to it, or the meeting was cut off before we could get to it. And this is our only opportunity to get things on the agenda based on our new policy. So I think it's really important that we continue to have this at the start of the meeting versus the end of the meeting so that we, every meeting, have an option to put something on the agenda if we think we need to. Let me get it together here. I had, at the end of the last meeting, there was a point of order to end the meeting, and so the meeting was ended abruptly without adjournment. But before we got up and left, I made a point of order about the point of order, and that wasn't heard because the board, I guess, decided that the first point of order just meant that my second point of order couldn't be heard. So I never got to make my point of order. So that's sort of how we left it. And everybody got up and walked out, and we didn't have a formal, adjournment or vote to adjourn or anything like that. And I'd like to take that up, and I'm going to try to explain this the best that I can. When I was reading Robert's Rules of Order, I noticed that there's a rule here called appeal decision of the chair. And I think that's appropriate. So I'd like to appeal the decision that we ended the meeting the way that we did, with that point of order and not hearing that second point of order. And I'd like to take up the issue because my point of order, which I think needs to be heard, and I'm going to make it now, which it should have been at the end of the meeting, the last meeting, but I wasn't allowed to make it. So I'm going to bring it up now. My point of order that I didn't get to speak to last time was regarding ending the meeting around 10:48 p.m. Abruptly after the meeting should have been ended according to our new policy, which we enacted that very meeting at 10:14 p.m. when we voted to decide to end our meetings at 10 p.m. So we actually voted to decide to end our meetings at 10 p.m. after 10 p.m. So that should have been the last decision that was made, and then we should have ended the meeting at that point to follow our own new policy. But instead, we didn't do that. We kept going, and we made some decisions. There were some votes taken, and then sort of arbitrarily, there was a point of order raised by Commissioner Tucker at 10:48 p.m. approximately to cut off the meeting. And so in doing that, I maintain that the decisions that we made after 10:14 p.m. are not valid and that they need to be re-agendized for a future agenda if they're to be taken up, because we should have ended the meeting before we got to those items. So I don't feel that it's fair to cut off a meeting when it's convenient for one commissioner and not follow our policy, which is a 10 p.m. policy, which in this case should have been 10:14. So I would like to basically null and void everything that happened after 10:14 and re-agendize those items for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to bring that to the rest of the board to see if my colleagues are interested in re-agendizing everything that happened after 10:14,
Approximately 10:14 when we made the decision. Everything after the decision was made
to re-agendize all those items.
To do the stop at 10. We made the vote to do the stop at 10, but then we kept going. So it's everything after that vote.
Okay. Do I hear a second from anyone on re-agendizing those items?
I second it.
I mean, you made the motion, but, okay, I will second it, okay?
I'm sorry, I thought you were making.
No, you're making it because you're proposing the idea. I'm going to second it because, I take responsibility for the last meeting. It did go longer than 10 o'clock, and as chair, that was my mistake. It should not have gone after 10 o'clock, especially after we had decided that we are going to do a hard stop at 10, and tonight we're going to do a hard stop at 10. I will be making sure that I have my watch in front of me, but I do take responsibility for that at the last meeting, so that's why I'm going to second your motion for that. I'd like a roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger?
No.
Commissioner Caravana?
No.
Commissioner Tucker?
No.
President Bernardo?
Aye. The motion fails.
Mr. President, may I add something? I rise to a point of information. May I go to council? Is it timely that my colleague asks for reconsideration or appeal on an issue that's at a previous meeting? Should she not have asked for it at that time, appealing the chair's ruling on a point of order? Can she do it subsequently at a future meeting?
I don't believe so. However, I think that the motion that was just made was to re-agendize, so.
I understand that, but for future reference, it's my humble opinion that appealing of a chair ruling, which is perfectly in order, must be done at that meeting to be timely.
I believe it needs to be made at the time that immediately.
For future reference, thank you.
You were walking away.
You were walking out.
Thank you. Okay. Excuse me, if we could please not have interruptions during the meeting. Just if you have something to say, just please fill out a comment card, and I'll make sure that I call on you on keeping everyone's comment card in order here.
President Bernardo, may I, for a point of personal privilege?
Seriously.
You can leave it, how about this? If you leave it blank, I will know that this is the topic that you want to speak on, and I'll make sure that it's up next. Thank you. Commissioner Holsinger.
Thank you. Just as a practical matter, we're all trying to feel our way here, and while we may never be able to return back to the time when commission meetings took an hour and 45 minutes, it certainly appears as if we're trying to keep the meetings within a 4-hour time window, rather than the 5.5 that we've seen regularly. So when we have a stop at 10 o'clock, as I understand it, the president, which is you now, has the discretion to get a sense of the board whether they want to go past that time. And subject to the consent of a majority of the board, can go past the hard stop time. Okay? So that can accommodate members of the public that want to talk. That can accommodate getting important staff reports or a commissioner wanting to make a motion to agendize something.
Correct.
Okay? So just as a matter of personal privilege, I would suggest that something like that happened last time where we had the vote at 10:00 something for a hard stop at 10. It was after the time. You continued on with the meeting with no commissioners objecting to it at that point in time. That then, when the meeting continued on even more, there was a point of order made that you agreed as president, you acknowledged as president was well taken, and you chose to end the meeting at that time. So while we have a vote here that says we don't want to retake up the issues that were voted on after that vote was taken sometime after 10 o'clock, really what I'm suggesting is that as a matter of personal privilege, I don't see why that would have been necessary, because after that vote, you continued on with the meeting in your discretion as president of the commission, and that we continued to conduct business until a decision was made to stop it.
Understood, Commissioner.
So just a point of personal privilege.
Thank you. I would like to get back to Commissioner
Sure.
Brennan, but thank you.
Just that we already voted on this, so can we keep going?
Yes, we're back at committee report statements and requests. Commissioner Brennan.
I'm also concerned about the fact that the decision that we made at the last meeting to not renew the administrative office lease is back on the agenda. We already voted on that, and I had a couple of members of the public communicate to me that it appeared that because the general manager wasn't happy with the way that vote went, that now it's back on the agenda for a second vote. So that's my last comment. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, thank you. I have two items myself that I'd like to just bring up. First one is, I have received comments from the public about this board and the tensions that we can all see and feel that occur, and the concern was a genuine concern, and it's also a concern that I have at times. And so one of the things that I would recommend, if it's okay with my colleagues, of course it's going to be all up to my colleagues because I can't do it by myself, is to have some sort of mediator, facilitator intervention. And I know that we've touched upon this item before, and I didn't really come up in any particular meeting, but would everyone be open to doing like, and I know this may sound corny, okay, but like some sort of a retreat or something where we go off and just have facilitation done, just so that we can try to be a stronger board?
Mr. President, yeah, I don't think it's corny at all. I think it's a matter of fact, and I think it's a very good idea. The only question I would ask is this meeting agendized? Is it a public meeting? And what would the venue be?
Those are good questions.
I mean, if you're going to ask, and I think a facilitator or...
Why don't you just make a motion to do it?
Well, then
I
I'll
just
ask
wanted
my
to ask-
questions on the point of questioning.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer his questions, but, okay, let me do this in order then. Let me make the motion. I move that we bring in an outside facilitator to spend some time, and I'm not gonna name how long it's gonna be, but some time with the full board to resolve issues, to make the board more cohesive and more effective, more functional.
I second.
Thank you.
Mr. President, question on the motion now.
Yes,
That's
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just want to get it in order.
That's fine. I have no problem with that. What would the venue be? What would the atmosphere be? Would it be a public, open meeting? Would it be a meeting in closed session, which I think we would have the right to do as a personnel matter? What is
That's a
your
really
belief?
good question, and I
And
actually...
those things need to be clarified before I can vote.
I've seen this happen on other boards, and typically they're not open to the public because, of course, it would be like you could have like raw emotions during the meeting, and it's not something that the public should have to be experiencing along with everybody else. It can make everybody feel uncomfortable. So I would recommend that we have a facilitator, and again, I don't have anyone in mind. This isn't something that I was thinking up before the meeting, so I would ask staff to look into it, look into the pricing. I don't even know what the going rate is for an outside facilitator, but someone make a recommendation. If staff could just make a recommendation and present someone to us, and I don't even know how much time. Is it 4 hours? Is it a whole day? I hope it's not a whole day, but something that we just come together and
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Just, I know that the California Special District Association does work with mediators for special district boards, and they would probably have a really great recommendation on who offers that sort of service, and that might be a good place to start.
Thank you. That's a great.
Point of order, please.
Also, we have
Go ahead. I'll defer.
Also, we have personnel attorneys that certainly could also recommend. Maybe if we could have a name of 3 or so.
Excellent.
And we could choose from those 3 perhaps?
Thank you. Excellent.
Point of order.
Yes, Commissioner.
Is your motion to put this on the agenda for future discussion, or is your motion to do it? Because there's been no notice to the public on this issue.
It's to put it on the agenda for the next meeting. It's to put it for the next meeting.
First. So that being said, I'd rise to the question and comment.
Yes.
I'd want to see the motion in writing, because I'm concerned about the Brown Act. I'm concerned about whether or not this is something that would be, whether or not this would be in closed session or not. And so first of all, I'd want to see the motion in writing, and then I'd want to have legal counsel identify whether this was an appropriate subject for discussion at closed session, or whether or not it would be subject to discussion at open session on a regular agenda. and then only the sessions themselves with some mediator might be closed session only. So I'd like clarification from legal counsel on that as well, after we've seen what it is you have in writing.
Yes, thank you. That's a really good point. So what I'd like to do is I would like to have a staff report then on this to give a suggestion and work with our attorneys, because I do agree that, you know, we don't want to violate any type of Brown Act by having, you know, a meeting that's just us cloistered somewhere. I would like to have that as part of the report. Commissioner Brennan.
So
Just
are you
one
withdrawing
last-
the motion?
No, the motion is still
To agendize it.
to agendize it with a report that's attached to it. Commissioner Brennan.
One last comment.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, we would not be the first board to do this, so
Mhm.
it's not like this is something that we have to invent.
Correct.
And I would just want to suggest that the sooner the better. Clearly, there are some problems that need to be addressed. Thank you.
Agreed.
I heard
It'll
from-
be on the
I heard
next-
from the audience what I was
Yes.
thinking. We're discussing the issue.
Yes, it'll be agendized, yes.
If we have a vote, yeah. We'll call for a vote.
Could someone state the motion?
Yes, the motion is to agendize the topic of bringing an outside facilitator to the board for intervention mediation. Okay, so can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger,
Aye.
Commissioner Peravano.
Aye.
Commissioner Tucker.
Aye.
President Bernard.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
For-
And I'm sorry, I have one more item, I'm so sorry. I know that this is taking up a lot of time, it's 7:30, so I'll say this really quickly. The issue of, because this was something that was brought up a couple of times during public comment, and I just want to make sure that we do bring it up. The issue of redaction of legal, the legal bills. So I understand that, my understanding, and please, Mr. Reese, correct me if I'm wrong, that our reports, from your perspective, they are attorney-client privileged, and we can, as a board, if we choose to, lift that attorney-client privilege so that you will provide those reports unredacted.
Yes, as the board, you are the ones with the power to waive the privilege.
Okay, so what I would like to do is I would like to agendize this item of the possible redaction, because I'm not going to be presumptuous, the possible redaction of our legal bills, legal documents, not documents, bills, our bills, not documents, because some documents
Do
are.
you mean the possible unredaction?
I'm sorry, the possible unredaction of those legal bills. I'd like this agendized. That would be my motion. Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second.
I hear a motion and a second. Do I hear any discussion?
Yes, point of clarification.
Yes, point of clarification, Commissioner.
For what
Wilson.
period of time? The reason why I asked for what period of time,
Mhm.
this body obviously has been sitting since January, and I came on in June.
Yes.
And so are we going to make a decision that's going to have an impact on prior sitting boards and prior elected officials? I don't think that would be appropriate. So I'd ask that it be clear as to time that you're talking about. And then if there's going to be some issue about waiving the privilege, you'd be making a motion to waive the privilege on behalf of prior commissioners who aren't here to waive that privilege.
That's a really
I have
good
a
point.
And then-
comment.
May I further, just to go up, if he's finished,
Yes, just-
if it's Mr. Ulam's report where everything was redacted that he held in front of us, if it's specifically as to that, that might clarify the issue. And I think that's where some concerns have been in the past.
That's very good. Thank you. Commissioner Brennan, and then I will clarify based on, yes.
Yeah, I agree. You might want to make it specific to the public records request that raised the issue in the first place. I don't think, based on my reading of past minutes, that this board has ever voted not, or ever voted to redact minutes before, although some of these commissioners here tonight have been here longer than I have. If I missed something, tell me, but I don't believe that is something this board has ever done before, you know, required redacting of, I'm sorry, did I say minutes? I meant the billings. So I don't believe that by doing this, we would be rolling back any prior decisions. And I think that that is really off topic to bring that up. So I think we should be specific about
Understood.
the PRA request that we have in front of us.
Thank you both commissioners for clarification. Mr. Reese, and then I'm going to clarify my motions. I'm sorry, yes.
Well,
Hi.
never mind, it doesn't need to be said, but I would recommend that you define the scope of what part of the privilege you are waiving.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to have Mr. Ullum's PRA requests unredacted. I'd like that agendized. Yes, I'd like it agendized for the next meeting, so we don't violate any Brown Act. So do I hear a second on that?
You already had a second.
So
Yeah,
on that
I'll second,
specific.
yes.
On the question of the motion, let me ask counsel, should this motion pass and the item be placed on the agenda, just the idea of discussing redaction, can you be prepared at that meeting to discuss in generalities what would be open to the public at that point?
Sure, I can be.
The nuances and...
This is where you get into sort of an issue area, though, is if one commissioner were to ask me what is this specific description of service, I could not in open session tell you one commissioner because the full board has not waived the privilege. If the board wants to examine the invoices prior to the meeting, I think that would be acceptable. But before the district, because here the district is the client, not the board, the district. The board just happens to be sitting on behalf of the district. So until the district has waived the privilege, we are ethically obligated to not disclose that type of information.
And let me further ask my question. Can you be prepared to bring that information with you so that we might see it?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I have a motion and a second, Commissioner Parvano.
Yeah, I'd like to ask
Point of information, please.
After Commissioner Parvano.
I'd like to ask my colleagues whether we're voting on something that we have not seen the specifics of the request.
Exactly.
So this might, is it a fair question for the board to act upon, not knowing what the specific and the details are of the PRA?
Weren't we emailed the PRA request? I mean, I got it.
Yeah, it's kind of vague.
That's
It's
a good
not
point.
here.
No, that's a
It's-
very
it's
good.
not
That's a good
here.
point. That's a good point because there were, just in full disclosure to the public, there were numerous PRAs, and so that's a good point. I do want to make clear before we give full license to unredact certain ones, which PRA that is specifically. So I would like, if possible, to have Mr. Ullum talk to the district and talk about that, and then we can have that agendized for the next meeting. That's my motion.
I believe we still have records of the
You do?
requests that he made. So.
Okay. I just want to be very clear, though, because I don't want there to be any question to that.
What you're talking about, that's perfect. He knows what I asked for.
Okay. I just want to be very clear. We're all on the same page, just so we're all on the same page. So now I had a motion. I have a motion, and I heard a second. Any other discussion before we roll call on this?
Just one more. I mean, I started out in complete favor of this motion.
Mhm.
And now as I sit here, it seems to be vague to me, and I'm hearing things that I'm not sure about, and I don't feel comfortable unless we can previously look at this stuff without agendizing it. If I can look at this stuff, then I can intelligently vote whether I want to release that redaction or not.
Can I make a comment?
Before your comment,
Yeah.
Commissioner Brennan, I have a question for the board. Would you be okay with, if you don't feel comfortable with the full vote on this now, would you be comfortable with an informational report from legal on what those,
Give it to us
implications
confidentially
are?
or open to the public?
Confidentially.
See,
I don't think you can do that.
maybe this is the best way to go.
Please.
As your counsel, we can provide the board with a confidential memorandum. We can enclose in there the information that potentially will be disclosed to the public subject to the vote. And then subsequent to receiving that memorandum, you can make a decision about what you want to do.
I hate to get one more question. Your suggestion brings another question to mind. You give each one of us a confidential memo that has the crux of the information that everyone else wants to see and that we're talking about. What's to prevent one of us from giving that to one of the local newspapers or to other individuals?
Other than a sense of morality and ethic, nothing.
Paranoid much?
So,
Can you control this one?
Probably not.
please, no, can I just ask everyone in the room, please no interrupting when someone's talking, so just, everyone will have a chance to talk, and again, there's opportunities for public comment, please just no interrupting one another, let's just be respectful. Mr. Reese, please finish.
If the board would be more comfortable, what I can also do is just provide them to you so that you can examine them without me actually producing a copy of it.
Can we do it in closed session?
I'm not sure if we can or not, but I can certainly figure out an answer to that question.
If it's agendized, I don't see why,
Could I make a comment, a suggestion?
Commissioner Brennan.
So when I want to review the unredacted billings, in the past, what I've done is just gone and sat at the conference room table at Jean's office and read through it myself in the conference room. So nothing left their office. It was all right there, and they didn't have to do anything except put the document on the table for me, so I wasn't using up their time. However, I know we have the policy now about costing money with legal counsel outside of meetings. So this is sounding like we might be getting into that territory. I know I certainly didn't vote on that, for that, but you guys did. So, you know, it sounds like special stuff is being asked for of council, so maybe we need to think about that too. If council could provide those unredacted documents on the conference room table for free for the commissioners to come and read through, it seems like that would take care of the issue in advance of the,
Point of order, and I believe I have a solution.
Okay.
First of all, as I understand the issue of the Public Records Act, the ultimate sanction of the consumer, the member of the public, if they don't believe that their Public Records Act has been complied with, is the initiation of litigation to enforce compliance. Since we always have as an actual matter, an actual issue for any Public Records Act, the potential for litigation, it seems to me that we have a request. We've had compliance but redacted, we've had an objection, and so the next legal process is to have a closed session and at the risk of or in contemplation of possible litigation or resolving that legal dispute, look at the records in closed session, and then that will give the board as a whole an opportunity to make an informed decision about the records that are at issue by having looked at them in a closed session with counsel present.
I have a concern about this.
Okay, can we have Mr. Reese respond and then
Yeah.
Commissioner Brennan?
You may be correct about that. I'm not confident enough here tonight to tell you yes or no that I agree with that. But that, like I said, that's something I can definitely look into and provide better guidance on.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brennan, and then I would like to alter my motion.
So I want to try to put this tactfully, but I think when Commissioner Holsinger was appointed to the board the second time, or the first time, whichever, it was as a commissioner, and I've noticed there's been a pattern of his speaking to the board as if he's an attorney giving legal advice, and it somehow doesn't feel appropriate. I don't know ethically if there's a problem with it, but it concerns me, and he wasn't appointed to be our counsel, so I just want to remind the board of that.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I do think that, Commissioner Holsinger will speak the way he speaks. I mean, we can't, just like any one of us speaks in a different voice, and he is an attorney. But I think we're all clear, and I'm not speaking for him. I know, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think we're all clear as commissioners who our attorney is. I mean, I think we're all pretty clear on that. So I would like to just put that.
I'm going to call for the
issue.
motion, Mr. President.
Yes, the motion that I have is to bring this, obviously I want this item to be agendized at some point. Whether we need to have council do a pre-meet or a pre-review first, but I would like to have this ultimately agendized, and my ultimate goal is to, for me personally, to have Mr. Ullum's PRA request unredacted ultimately. According to the parameters of the dates that he's asking
Mr.
for.
President,
Yes.
with all, I beg your indulgence, and I apologize for interrupting you, but I call for the question. You need to call for the motion.
Okay, I made the motion, and the second was Commissioner Brennan. So, can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger?
No.
Commissioner Paravano?
No.
Commissioner Tucker?
No.
President Bernardo?
Aye. Okay, thank you. We are done with the committee reports, statements, and requests. And now we are back to the regular agenda, which would be item 4. But before we get to the public comments on item 4, there was another public comment that came in from Sean Cartwright on items not on the agenda, and I said that I would take it.
This was just about when you guys closed the meeting last time so abruptly. She was trying to say something. She was trying to say, like, to raise her issue at the end. And very specifically at the end of the meeting, you're like, oh, we're adjourned, and you got up and left. So how is she supposed to raise the issue at the last meeting when you were like, we're adjourned, and you just left? Who is she supposed to adjourn it to? And you two specifically got up and left. So when you're saying, oh, well, now's not the time, you know, you specifically, that was your play, that was your game, and that was your checkmate. You were like, I say we adjourn it, we have this new rule, we're out of here. And that was what you did. Well played. And then you two are the ones that say, we know Robert's Rules of Orders. You're always quoting it. And now you're saying, oh, well, maybe if we got this one wrong, gee, sorry, let's just move on. Past is the past. But if she went home and she read the rules and she got it right, and she was like, you know what, I knew I was right, and she is right, then you need to accept that you were wrong. And you can't move on from that. You can't bury it in the kitty litter like you're trying to do. And you're the lawyer, so you should know that it was wrong. And I just wanted to say, and then Tucker, you've been on the commission since the beginning of time, so you know what's right and wrong, or at least you should, and you know that what you did was wrong. So I think that you guys should look at this and stop using this and say, well, that happened last time. You just made the motion, you left the room, and you did it on purpose. And then tonight you said, well, you should have raised it last time. And I think that that's a game that you're playing. And I think that most of these people are on to you. And you keep saying this personal privilege. And I think you're just trying to say that she's trying to play something, and she's not. It was you two. And when you bring up the Brown Act and say that that might be a violation, or you're worried about the Brown Act, that's laughable. That is completely laughable coming from you, who like tramples all over the Brown Act. And I think that it's funny that you guys are paranoid about mediation, and that it shows how dysfunctional you really are.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me talk, I appreciate that.
Thank you. We are at item 4, and before we get to item 4, we have public comment. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Mr. President,
5.
can we take a 5-minute break, please?
Sure. We can take a bio break. We are going to take a 5-minute break, so we will be back at 7:55. Thank you.
Joel?